The council chamber of Zirian Prime hummed with anticipation as Commander Zara Keth strode through the crystalline corridors. Her violet scales caught the artificial sunlight streaming through the transparent walls, each step echoing with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. The other species representatives whispered among themselves, their various appendages gesturing toward the towering figure who commanded respect across 7 star systems. Pathetic, Zara muttered under her breath, reviewing the holographic display floating before her amber eyes. The data showed Earth's military capabilities, population statistics, and technological advancement levels. She couldn't suppress a laugh that sounded more like a predator's growl. They call this a civilization worthy of galactic inclusion? Her assistant, a nervous Blixian named Quinn, scurried beside her on 6 spindly legs. Commander, the Council has requested your assessment of the human application for membership in the Galactic Union. They seem eager for your approval. Zara's laugh turned bitter. Eager? They should be trembling. Look at these numbers. Quinn, humans live barely a century. Their bones break under pressure that wouldn't even bruise a Zirian child. They require constant sustenance, sleep for 8 hours daily, and their emotional instability is legendary throughout the Outer Rim. The massive doors to the council chamber slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside, representatives from 43 different species sat in a circular arrangement, their varied forms creating a bizarre symphony of colors, shapes, and sizes. At the center, a holographic Earth rotated slowly, displaying continents and oceans in pristine detail. Honorable Council, Zara began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered worlds. I present my findings on a species known as humans. Elder Mox, a gelatinous being whose thoughts manifested as shifting colors across his translucent form. Pulse green with curiosity. Please proceed, Commander Keth. Your reputation precedes you. Zara activated her personal hologram projector, flooding the chamber with images of human warfare, natural disasters, and medical procedures. These creatures are fundamentally flawed. Their average lifespan is a joke compared to our millennia. They cannot survive in space without extensive life support systems. They require constant atmospheric pressure, specific temperature ranges, and their immune systems are so primitive that microscopic organisms can kill them. A ripple of what might have been laughter spread through the assembled aliens. The Vorthak delegate, whose species resembled armored beetles, clicked his mandibles in amusement. And yet they seek membership among us? Indeed. Zara's expression grew more disdainful, but their physical weakness pales in comparison to their psychological fragility. They form emotional attachments to everything. Their pets, their offspring, their mates, even inanimate objects. They weep over fictional stories. They sacrifice their own advancement for the sake of others who contribute nothing to their survival. She gestured dramatically, causing the hologram to shift to images of human soldiers carrying wounded comrades. Look at this absurdity. In battle, they risk their lives to retrieve the fallen. Any logical species would abandon the weak to preserve the strong. Quinn shifted uncomfortably beside her, his multiple eyes darting between the council members. Something in their expressions made his antenna twitch with anxiety. Furthermore, Zara continued, warming to her subject, they possess no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no venom, no armored skin. They are so pathetically vulnerable that they must create external tools to defend themselves. Their entire civilization depends on instruments because they are too weak to survive without them. The Christek representative, a being of living mineral whose voice resonated like struck glass, spoke up. Commander, have you considered that perhaps? That perhaps what? Zara interrupted, her amber eyes flashing. That their weakness might be disguised strength? Ridiculous. I have studied warfare for 3 centuries. I have conquered 17 worlds. I know strength when I see it, and humans possess none. She paused, letting her words sink in before delivering what she believed would be the final blow. They even marked their skin with permanent ink as decoration. Tattoos, they call them, as if defacing their already fragile bodies with pictures and symbols makes them somehow more formidable. The council chamber fell silent. Several representatives exchanged glances that Zara interpreted as agreement with her assessment. Therefore, she concluded, I recommend that humanity be denied membership in the Galactic Union. They would be a liability in times of crisis, a burden during conflicts, and an embarrassment to our coalition of advanced species. Elder Mox's form shifted to a deep purple, indicating deep thought. Your assessment is thorough, Commander. However, before we make our final decision, there is something you should know. Zara raised one scale brow. Oh! During our preliminary observations of Earth, we intercepted a transmission, a human female. Speaking to her companion about you specifically, the hologram changed, showing a human woman with dark hair and determined eyes. Her voice filled the chamber, speaking in the melodic tones of the English language, automatically translated by the universal communicators. Did you hear about that alien commander who keeps calling us weak? Zara something or other. Apparently, she's been telling the whole galaxy that humans are pathetic, fragile, and worthless, that we're too emotional, too short-lived, too dependent on technology. The woman's companion, a male with graying hair, responded with what humans called a smile. And what do you think about that? I think, the woman said, her voice carrying an edge that made even some of the council members lean forward, that she's about to learn something very important about humanity, something that might change her perspective on what it means to be strong. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in contemplative silence. Zara scoffed. Empty words from an inferior species. What could they possibly teach me about strength? Elder Mox's form shifted to amber, indicating amusement. Perhaps you should ask Captain Elena Vasquez that question directly. Who? The human woman in the transmission. She's currently aboard the transport vessel approaching our station. She volunteered to serve as Earth's representative in what she called a cultural exchange program. Zara's scales rippled with irritation. You're bringing one of them here? To our station? She specifically requested to meet with you, Commander. She said she had something to show you that might change your mind about human weakness. The chamber erupted in what passed for laughter among the various species. Zara's amber eyes narrowed dangerously. Very well, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. I'll meet with this Captain Vasquez. It will be amusing to demonstrate human inferiority face to face. Quinn tugged at her armor with one of his smaller appendages. Commander, perhaps nothing, Zara snapped. I've spent 3 centuries studying warfare and conquest. What could one fragile human possibly show me that would change my mind? Elder Mox's form shifted to deep blue, indicating anticipation. That, Commander Keth, is exactly what we're curious to discover. The transport vessel's arrival was announced by a soft chime throughout the station. Zara made her way to the docking bay, her heavy boots echoing in the corridor. She had changed into her most impressive ceremonial armor, complete with the medals and insignia that told the story of her military career. If this human wanted to meet her, she would see exactly what a real warrior looked like. The docking bay was a marvel of engineering, capable of accommodating vessels from dozens of different species. Atmospheric processors hummed softly, adjusting the environment to support the incoming human visitor. Zara positioned herself at the center of the bay, arms crossed, waiting. The human transport was smaller than she expected, a sleek vessel that seemed almost primitive compared to Zerian technology. As the airlock cycled open, Zara prepared her most intimidating expression. Captain Elena Vasquez stepped into bay, and Zara's first thought was disappointment. The human was shorter than expected, with dark hair pulled back in a practical style, and wearing what appeared to be a simple uniform. No armor, no weapons, no visible protection of any kind. Commander Keth, Elena said, her voice calm and respectful. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Zara looked down at the human, her expression unchanged. I agreed to this meeting to demonstrate the futility of your species' application for galactic membership. You wanted to show me something that might change my mind about human weakness? Elena nodded. I did. But first, I'd like to ask you a question. Speak. In all your years of conquest and warfare, have you ever encountered an enemy that surprised you? Someone who seemed weak, but turned out to be stronger than you anticipated? Zara's scales rippled with annoyance. Weakness is weakness. There are no surprises in warfare, only poor intelligence and inadequate preparation. Interesting perspective. Elena's expression remained neutral. Tell me, Commander, what you know about human history. I know enough. Your species has been at war with itself for millennia. You fight over resources, territory, ideology, and religion. You've never achieved true unity, even on your own world. That's true, Elena acknowledged. We have fought amongst ourselves. But do you know what we've learned from all that fighting? Zara's amber eyes narrowed. That you're incapable of peaceful coexistence. We've learned that the strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Before Zara could respond, Elena turned around and began removing her uniform jacket. What she revealed made the Zarian commander's breath catch in her throat. Elena's back was covered in an intricate tattoo that seemed to tell a story across her skin. But this wasn't the simple decoration that Zara had dismissed earlier. This was something else entirely. The tattoo depicted a massive tree with roots that extended deep into the earth and branches that reached toward the stars. But it was the details that made Zara's warrior instincts suddenly alert. The roots were wrapped around bones, skulls, and broken weapons. The trunk was scarred and wounded, with dark patches that suggested fire and violence. And the branches bore not leaves, but faces. Hundreds of them. Do you know what this is, Commander? Elena asked, her voice carrying a weight that hadn't been there before. Zara found herself stepping closer, her trained eye picking out details that spoke of battles, victories, and losses. It's a memorial? Not just any memorial. This is the story of my family's military service. Every mark, every scar, every face represents someone who served in Earth's armies. Some came home, some didn't. Elena pointed to specific sections of the tattoo. This root here? That's my great-great-grandfather, who died in something we called World War I. Over there, that's my grandfather, who survived World War II but lost his brother in the Pacific Theater. This branch represents my father, who served in Vietnam and came home with scars that never fully healed. Zara's amber eyes followed Elena's finger as she traced the artwork across her skin. And this is my brother Marcus, who died in Afghanistan when I was 19. He was killed by an improvised explosive device while trying to evacuate wounded civilians from a hospital. The Zarian commander felt something she hadn't experienced in decades. Uncertainty. You carry the memory of your dead on your skin? Elena turned to face her, and Zara saw something in the human's eyes that she recognized. It was the look of someone who had seen battle and survived it. We don't just carry their memory, Commander. We carry their strength, their courage, their sacrifice. You said humans are weak because we form emotional attachments, because we care about each other, because we're willing to die for those who can't protect themselves. Elena's voice grew stronger with each word. You're right. We do all those things. But you've made a critical error in your assessment. What error? Elena smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. You confuse weakness with restraint. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Zara felt her scales prickle with something that might have been recognition. Tell me, Commander, Elena continued, in all your conquests, have you ever faced an enemy that had nothing left to lose? Someone who fought not for conquest or glory, but for survival, for the protection of everything they held dear. Zara thought back through centuries of military campaigns, and slowly, reluctantly, she began to nod. Yes, the most dangerous enemies are those who have been pushed beyond their breaking point. Exactly. And that's what you don't understand about humans. We're not weak. We're just patient. Elena walked closer, and Zara found herself taking an involuntary step backward. Every human on Earth carries this tree inside them. Not literally, of course, but the concept. We remember our dead. We honor our fallen. We carry their strength forward. That's not strength, Zara protested, though her voice lacked its earlier conviction. That's sentimentality. Is it? Elena's smile grew sharper. Let me tell you what happened the last time someone tried to conquer Earth. Elena's eyes grew distant as she began to speak, her voice carrying the weight of history itself. It was about 70 years ago. A species called the Devourers found our little blue planet. They were everything you admire, Commander. Ruthless, logical, powerful. They had conquered dozens of worlds before ours. Zara's scale shifted uneasily. She had heard whispers of the Devourers in the outer systems, stories that veteran warriors told in hushed tones. The Devourers are extinct. Yes, they are. Elena's smile was cold as winter starlight. Care to guess why? The docking bay seemed to grow colder. Zara found herself genuinely curious for the first time in decades. Continue. They arrived with a fleet of 300 ships, massive vessels that could crack continents and boil oceans. Their technology was centuries ahead of ours. They had plasma weapons, force fields, matter disruptors. We had chemical rockets and nuclear bombs. Elena began pacing, her movements reminding Zara of a caged predator. They sent us an ultimatum: surrender unconditionally, serve as their slave workforce, or face complete annihilation. They gave us 72 hours to decide. And we sent back a single message. 3 words that every human child learns in school now. Elena paused, her expression growing fierce. Come and take. Zara felt a chill run down her spine. Those words were a warrior's challenge, the kind that preceded the bloodiest battles in galactic history. The Devourers laughed. Elena continued. They thought we were bluffing. After all, what could a primitive species like humanity possibly do against their superior technology and military might? They began their assault 48 hours early, just to prove a point. They targeted our major cities first. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Billions died in the first hour. Elena's voice grew quieter, more dangerous. But they made a mistake, Commander. They thought that by killing our civilians, they would break our will to fight. They didn't understand that they had just awakened something that had been sleeping for generations. What do you mean? Humans, you see, have a switch. Most of the time, we're exactly what you described. Emotional, caring, willing to sacrifice for others. We follow rules of engagement. We try to minimize civilian casualties. We attempt diplomatic solutions. Elena's eyes met Zara's directly. But when you hurt our families, when you threaten our children, when you cross certain lines, that switch flips. And when it does, we stop being the civilized species you studied. We become what we used to be, which is apex predators. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Zara found herself thinking of her own military training, of the primal instincts that even advanced species carry within their genetic memory. Within 6 hours of the first attack, every human military force on Earth had been mobilized. But more than that, every human civilian had become a combatant. 8 billion people, all with the same single-minded purpose: make the invaders pay. Elena's tattoo seemed to shift in the docking bay's lighting, the faces of her fallen family members appearing to watch the conversation. The Devourers expected traditional warfare, fleets meeting in space, armies clashing on battlefields, civilized rules of engagement. What they got was something else entirely. We turned our entire planet into a weapon. Every human became a soldier. Every building became a fortress. Every street became a battlefield. Zara's military mind began to grasp the implications. Guerrilla warfare on a planetary scale. Guerrilla warfare, sabotage, suicide attacks, biological weapons, chemical weapons, nuclear weapons. We used everything. Every dirty trick, every forbidden tactic, every war crime that civilized species had agreed to avoid. Elena's voice grew harder with each word. We didn't just fight their military. We hunted their commanders. We targeted their supply lines. We infiltrated their ships and murdered them in their sleep. We poisoned their food, sabotaged their equipment, and turned their own technology against them. And when they retreated to their ships, thinking they were safe in space, we followed them. Humans have always been good at improvising, Commander. We built weapons from asteroid miners, turned cargo vessels into warships, and used our own bodies as projectiles when necessary. Zara felt her amber eyes widening. You're describing total war. Total war with total commitment. Every human on Earth understood that this was survival. Not just our survival, but the survival of our species, our children, our future. The Devourers wanted to enslave us? Fine. But they would have to kill every last one of us first. Elena pointed to another section of her tattoo, a dark area near the base of the tree. This represents the siege of Europa Station, a human colony that the Devourers had captured. They used our own people as human shields, thinking we wouldn't attack. What did you do? We attacked anyway. The colonists knew what was coming. They had requested it. Every single human on that station chose to die, fighting rather than live as slaves. The docking bay fell silent, except for the hum of life support systems. Zara found herself staring at the tattoo with new understanding. Each mark, each scar, each face represented not just a person, but a choice. A decision to fight against impossible odds for something greater than individual survival. The war lasted 3 years, Elena continued. 3 years of the most brutal, vicious, uncompromising warfare the galaxy had ever seen. We didn't just fight the Devourers. We consumed them. We learned their tactics, stole their technology, and used it against them with a creativity that terrified their commanders. How did it end? Elena's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. We won, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through sheer, bloody-minded determination. We outlasted them. We outfought them. We showed them that some species would rather die than submit. The last Devourer ship was destroyed in Earth's orbit. The final battle was fought hand-to-hand in the corridors of their flagship. Human Marines with stolen alien weapons, fighting room by room until there was nothing left but silence. Zara felt something shift in her understanding. You're saying that human weakness is actually strength? I'm saying that you fundamentally misunderstood what strength means. Elena began putting her uniform jacket back on, covering the tattoo, but not its message. You think strength is about individual power, physical superiority, technological advantage. But human strength is collective. It's the strength of billions of people united by shared purpose. It's the strength of parents fighting for their children's future. It's the strength of soldiers who know that their deaths will inspire others to continue fighting. Elena looked directly at Zara. You called us weak because we form emotional attachments, because we care about each other, because we're willing to sacrifice for those who can't protect themselves. You're right. We do all those things. But those aren't weaknesses, Commander. Those are the sources of our strength. Zara found herself backing away from the human, her warrior instincts recognizing something dangerous in Elena's calm demeanor. You're threatening us. No, Elena said softly. I'm educating you. There's a difference. The Galactic Union is considering whether to admit humanity to membership. You've been arguing that we're too weak, too emotional, too fragile to be valuable allies. Elena's expression grew serious. But I want you to understand something very important. We're not asking to join the Galactic Union because we need protection. We're asking to join because we want to contribute to galactic peace and stability. However, if the Union decides that humanity is a threat rather than an asset, if other species decide that Earth needs to be conquered or contained rather than welcomed as an equal partner, then they should remember the story of the Devourers. The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. You're saying that any species that attacks Earth will face the same fate. I'm saying that the choice is yours, Commander. You can have 8 billion humans as allies, friends, and partners. Or you can have 8 billion humans as enemies. But you can't have 8 billion humans as slaves. Elena turned toward the airlock, then paused. There's something else you should know about this tattoo. What? It's not finished. There's space on my back for more branches, more faces, more stories. Every human who carries this tree knows that someday they might need to add new chapters to the story. We hope we never have to. We genuinely want peace, cooperation, and friendship with other species. But if someone forces us to choose between submission and war, well, Elena shrugged. We've made that choice before. Zara watched as Elena walked back toward her transport, her mind reeling from the conversation. Everything she thought she knew about human weakness had been turned upside down. These weren't fragile creatures begging for protection. These were apex predators who had chosen to be civilized. Captain Vasquez, Zara called out. Elena stopped and turned back. Yes, the Devourers. How many humans died in that war? Elena's expression grew somber. 2 billion, nearly a quarter of our population at the time. And you still fought. Commander, the tree on my back has roots that go deep into the earth. Those roots represent the sacrifices of previous generations. But the branches reach toward the stars, representing the future we're building for our children. Every human understands that sometimes you have to water the tree with blood so that future generations can live in peace. Elena paused at the airlock entrance. One final thing, Commander, you mentioned that humans mark their skin with tattoos, as if this somehow makes us weak or primitive. Yes. Most humans don't have tattoos like mine. Most humans live peaceful, productive lives without ever seeing combat. But every human carries a memory of what we're capable of when pushed too far. The tattoo isn't just decoration, Commander. It's a reminder, a promise, a warning. Elena smiled one last time before stepping through the airlock. Choose wisely. The transport departed 30 minutes later, leaving Zara alone in the docking bay with her thoughts. She stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where the human ship had been. When she finally returned to the council chamber, the assembled representatives were waiting for her assessment. Elder Mox's form shifted to curious green as she entered. Well, Commander Keth, has your opinion of human weakness changed? Zara looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species who had never faced an enemy like the Devourers. Species who had achieved their positions through diplomacy, trade, and technological advancement rather than the brutal crucible of total war. Honorable Council, she began, her voice carrying a weight that hadn't been there before. I recommend that humanity be immediately granted full membership in the Galactic Union. The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Elder Mox's form shifted to shock yellow. Commander, this is quite a change from your previous assessment. My previous assessment was based on incomplete information. I have now had the opportunity to study human military history in greater detail. Zara paused, choosing her words carefully. Humans are not weak. They are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. They are apex predators who have chosen to be civilized. They are warriors who prefer peace but are fully prepared for war. We need them as allies, not enemies. And we need them as partners, not subjects. The Vorthak delegate clicked his mandibles nervously. You make them sound like a threat. They are a threat, Zara replied. The question is whether they're a threat to us or to our enemies. That choice is entirely up to us. Elder Mox's form shifted to deep purple, indicating serious contemplation. And your recommendation? Make them our friends, Honorable Council, because the alternative is unthinkable. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Union, with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. Later, alone in her quarters, Zara found herself researching human military history with new eyes. The Devourers have been the most feared species in the galaxy, conquerors who had never known defeat, until they met humanity. She studied the tactical reports, the casualty figures, the strategic analyses. What she found was a species that had turned their apparent weaknesses into devastating strengths. Their emotional attachments became unbreakable bonds of loyalty. Their short lifespans became urgency to protect future generations. Their technological limitations became creative improvisation. Most disturbing of all, she realized that the war with the Devourers hadn't been humanity at full strength. It had been a species that was still learning what it was capable of. Zara looked at her own scaled hands that had conquered 17 worlds. She thought about the tattoo on Elena's back, the tree with roots in sacrifice and branches reaching toward the stars. For the first time in 3 centuries, Commander Zara Keth felt something she had never experienced before, gratitude that humanity had chosen to be civilized, because the alternative was too terrible to imagine.